That's okay.
Welcome back to Moral Relatives.
Hey, here we are. Welcome back to Moral Relatives. We're happy that you're joining us again. Tell your friends about it. Click the like button, and other people get to see these things if you think they're worthwhile. We think they're worthwhile. So last week we talked about the Eightfold Path of Buddhism and how it connects to, I was connecting it to the Beatitudes, saying that every religion puts something forth for their adherents to kind of follow, so they can be the best versions of themselves, so they can be who they are. And for us Christians in the New Testament, even though we do have the Ten Commandments, and the Ten Commandments are still in vogue, it's not like we threw those out and said, okay, we're not going to do those anymore, we're going to do these. We're also doing the 8 Beatitudes that Jesus gave us on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's so interesting how they connect to the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. So we want to keep going in that direction. I try to find a little Bible verse that goes with the Eightfold. With the Beatitude that will tie it to the Eightfold Path. I'm going to try to ask him some questions, and then you'll throw some stuff in, and hopefully I'll have some good questions. So we want to start with the next of the Eightfold Path, which is called correct action, engaging in ethical conduct, refraining from harm. Now, I did something a little crazy with this one. I kind of did this scripture verse from Matthew 7, 1, 2. Do not judge, or you will be judged, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged with the measure you use. It will be measured to you. Matthew 7, 1, verses 1 and 2. Now, why I went in that direction is because when I look at that correct action, I think we have to... I don't think a lot of us act incorrectly towards other people in a physical way, but I think we certainly do it with our mouths, right? I think our mouths probably get us in a lot of trouble, and that's where the judging others comes in. Especially in this day and age, it seems like you can't almost say anything without someone saying, well, you can't really, that's not how we think. What's the deal with society? Why can't they just know that we're not in charge of judging just the way that the Buddhists ask us to refrain from harming others? Because when we judge them, ultimately we harm them. So why do you think that's so? I mean, why do you think that we can't just be kind with our words? You like words. Mm-hmm. Is there any reason why you think society has gone downhill in terms of? I always like to say, do you think society has gone downhill?
I think so. Yeah, I think, but like from where? From further downhill.
Oh, so you think we were already in the dregs?
Well, it's an eternal thing. It's not like now is worse than then. It's just different.
Okay, so
it's a different format, like so social media and
that's what I was going to ask.
Just the idea of I don't know. Well, part of it is you're presenting yourself to be judged. That's the whole idea, is that you're showing yourself, oh, this is my good side. This is me at the beach. See how I am. Judge me. And so when you get judged, I guess all I could say is you asked for it.
You asked for it.
So, but I guess at the same time, there's the aggressive judging as well, or I think people just love to see train wrecks, love to see things fail, love to watch disaster for some reason. Like,
maybe think of two things. One thing I thought of was my grandmother and my mother and that age group of people. They didn't have social media. So they had telephones, but, that was like dial in the telephone, like that kind of thing. And so I'm trying to remember if I ever observed them like judging someone, or criticizing someone, because they had to do it one-on-one. There's no way for them to,
or just gossip.
Yeah, but I never really.
Gossip's the same thing as social media, only it was closed.
Well, it's a lot more closed audience for sure. You put something on social media, anybody can see it. You know what I mean? But when my mother was talking to her sister and maybe gossiping about someone, it was just two people and anybody who overheard it.
But gossip isn't new.
No.
Spreading rumors,
Yeah,
talking bad about people.
This is where,
and I'm sure it all comes from either fear of that other person or trying to get your own personal gain out of the manipulation of people.
Right. So the other thing I thought about is I had this one student, and she was a young girl, and she would dress pretty, as I would recognize it, provocative. And but her MO was always, well, that's not, I want to dress the way I want to dress because that's the way I want to dress. And the person who's having a problem with it, if you can't handle the way I dress, that's your problem, not my problem. Is she asking for it?
She can't be disappointed when it comes.
Well, she was adamantly
but
like, it's your fault.
That doesn't mean that you have to live in that reality of people judging you. You can be yourself and live outside that and be like, well, this is who I am, so deal with it. But then when the people judge you, you also have to detach yourself from that. But also, it kind of is anti what we're going for, because then you're just attaching yourself to this persona that you're glorifying, or not I'm this, so deal with it, is ego.
That's
so you're probably not fully in the right.
Yeah, but you could not convince this one young person that maybe she should go a different way, and she wouldn't.
Well, we wouldn't judge her, would we?
This was the dilemma I always had. Is like, I know I wanted to respect her and who she was, and but she really kind of put herself out there, and it made me
just had to judge her.
No, it made me afraid more than judging her. It made me afraid because not everyone's a good person.
Well, yeah, we could think about like why do we judge things? Why do we even have like a prejudice? It comes from experience telling you like this is a stimulant you should be hyper aware of, right? So it's just tuning. It's not a negative thing to have presumptions, because those are the things that could, keep you out of danger or put you on the right path. You're like, oh, I presume this is good for me. So it's not always a negative thing.
Right.
But I guess I forgot where I was going.
But I think that one of the things that I think both these things talk about. The beatitude that I connected to this was, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. So if you don't judge people, you're really being a peacemaker. You're trying to find what's the best in someone else. But there people, the only thing that we really, our character, who our character is. I'm watching this TV show, this little series on TV, and the reason I like watching some of those is because of the characters. Other characters. There's a bad guy who's doing bad things, but he has such empathy. So you feel you feel bad for him that he's getting caught up in the bad things, So his character.
This is like a story arc I've noticed, a theme recently. Like starting with kind of like the Dark Knight and the Joker was like probably the first time I really like saw it solidified. But this idea of the villain being a hero and us feeling sorry for the villain, and us being like, oh no, the villain's justified, and then it kind of culminates to a CEO gets shot, and then the world reacts in a way that almost praises the villain in that situation, one would argue.
Yeah, that young character.
But like, I mean, I saw it happen in like the programming, if you will, and then in fruition. And it's just a theme I've noticed recently, and I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. But maybe now you're aware of it, and we'll see it. So
yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, because it has to do with that character, our character, who we are. Mm-hmm. When we start making those who are less desirable, we want to be that less desirable.
Well, it's in some way it appeals to our worst bit of us, that we know that we're like, we question ourselves, like, are we capable of that? Could we do that? And then we kind of get to indulge through this third party rather than do it. But like, that also like is leading people closer to it becoming reality.
But isn't it
as
cool?
well? I don't know. Yeah.
Isn't it cool? But isn't it cool that like the Buddhists have come up with this Eightfold Path, that again says, a small printing here, engage in ethical conduct, refrain from harm. Right? We're going away from that. If we really want to be the best version of ourselves, maybe we need to go back in that direction. And I think the Christians say the same thing by, blessed are the peacemakers.
I'm disappointed it came in that order, because I think the avoid doing wrong should be first. And then if you get the chance, do something good. But I feel like for the most part, the world is navigating, avoiding the temptations or avoiding the potential to ego boost or put someone else down so you get something easier or whatever. Like, that should be in the forefront of your mind. Avoid the harming of others. Like, I don't know. It's
so when I was doing my research, I was thinking of things like, I kept in the back of my mind, kept flipping up in my head, was we want to talk about morals. We want to talk about the morals of our world and where they come from in terms of these faith traditions, whether it's Buddhism or Judaism or Islam or Christianity, or any religion. But people say they want to be that, but they don't act like they want to be that. Where has all the, I think one of our first episodes when we talked about sin and stuff like that, and the our need to want to sin, concupiscence, we said that people can't not do it, right? What's wrong with us that we can't develop our morals? Are we afraid to be that goody two-shoes person, or afraid to be a doormat? I don't know.
I think that's the doormat thing, because, we kind of live in a world where the nature of the order of things is that those who are willing to step on others can take that. And those who are trying to be more passive and diplomatic are ultimately going to lose. And, the more you get closer to the least common denominator, the worse of an option it actually is. So it's not actually helping us.
Yes.
And so we live in this dynamic where this is the case. So how come that?
Right.
So we're just reacting to the stimulus we're given. We see that, the thing with the bigger teeth doesn't have as many enemies, so we want to have as big as teeth as we can.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you said earlier. Humankind, wants to see the train wreck. They want to see the house burned down. I remember when I was a kid, we'd heard a fire engine in our town, in our city, and we would go looking for that. Where is that? There must be something cool going on there. We want to see the
spectacle, even if it's horrible. We just we
want to see that.
Can't look away.
We can't. All right, let's look at the next one. Correct livelihood. I really wanted to talk about this one because this is the Eightfold Path. Earning a living in a way that does not harm others.
Or supporting anybody else's livelihood, which does in turn harm others.
Right. So the scripture verse I found was 1 Corinthians where it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." So I picked that one because I think if we do remember that everything is a gift from God, then there's no way that we would want to do anything that would harm someone else.
Right.
You know,
it has to stay sacred.
It has to say, yeah, it has to stay sacred. And I don't think people really, kind of pick that way.
Do you think there's something to the manipulation of nature kind of takes away the sacredness of it, and then us consuming and only interacting with manipulated nature rather than true nature kind of makes us toxic in that same way that the nature became?
Okay, but does that go back to your analogy with the bigger teeth? We want to get the bigger teeth.
Yeah, we did it to ourselves.
We
poisoned ourselves essentially.
We want to get the bigger teeth. But what's the line? What's the line between earning a living and then not harming while you're earning that living? Because ultimately we have to work. Right, we have to work. I mean, you could say
for what?
For what benefit?
Right. What do we have to work for?
Well, we have to work so that we can participate in society, so that we can have a microphone, so that we can have paper, so that we can eat. I mean, it goes all over the place. So you can get really nitpicky and say, you work in an industry that is super harmful to people.
I suppose I'm a drug dealer.
Yeah, you are, in a sense, right?
Right.
You're giving people coffee. And you ever hear people in the morning, what do they say?
Not good morning.
Not good morning. Don't they say, I got to get my coffee? Oh, my coffee. Got to get my coffee.
Right.
I mean, are we really helping them in a sense when we do that? So, I think
I'm just facilitating their rat race.
Is that good or bad? I mean, are you doing right livelihood?
That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. This is my existential struggle every day. How do I participate in society that by nature is built on something that exploits resources and people that I'll never even have any control over helping?
Right.
So do I just forget about that and participate?
I guess your boss might be angry with you. Said, "Listen, don't have any coffee. This is really good for you. Here's a cup of water."
But I did choose to work at a coffee shop that's locally run, locally sourced beans from local farms that interact with the owners of those farms. That versus a chain coffee shop that's in every city in the world or something.
Yeah, that's cutting the edge. That's certainly cutting the edge.
So that's doing what I can. But yeah, if I was to live purely, just go naked back into nature and Eden, right?
I don't know we're trying to get back.
So how do we do that?
We're trying to
do the nature thing, or do the society thing with the microphones and all that.
That's my struggle. That is truly my struggle.
Are we so astray?
Yeah, that is truly my struggle.
That's why I think it's about avoiding doing the bad as much as you can versus, doing good. Best laid plans of mice and men, but avoiding doing the wrong thing, that's pretty black and white.
Yes, I agree. And there is right and wrong. I don't care. Everyone can kind of say, if it doesn't hurt anybody else, and then I can do it because I'm not hurting anybody, but you could be hurting yourself. And so, there is right and wrong in everything. Do you agree with that? Do you think there really is? I really agree that there's right and wrong.
I think ultimately no, but I think in a soul navigating this universe, it's a more useful tool to have than not have.
What's the tool that you're talking about?
Right and wrong.
Oh, okay. So we need it.
I think it's a useful tool to have if you're interacting in this universe. Does it actually exist? No.
Okay.
We're just participating in a game where it exists, and then beyond that, where we really lie, it doesn't matter. It's not even a
Wait,
concept.
you're confusing me here.
Okay.
We do need right and wrong.
Yeah, when we're playing the game of being a human.
Well, what other game is there?
Well, the end of the game is back to source, which is real reality.
Sure, but
where there is no good and evil, there's only completion.
So, back if you say back to source, that makes me think of like Buddha becomes enlightened.
Yeah. Or, communion with God, whatever you need to call it.
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing.
So this struggle that we have, it's okay to struggle? It's okay to walk through this journey?
It's the whole point, is to splash around.
What do you mean by splash around? Like try not to drown?
Like the perfection already happened, and then now we're doing the imperfection on purpose. It's purposefully imperfect. So
who made it purposely imperfect?
Well, something greater than us.
God? Did God make it perfectly imperfect?
Probably
so that
something lesser than God.
But greater than us.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
That's where I got to find out what that is. You got to.
I think that's what the Bible says mostly.
I don't know. I think
that's what I read.
The Old Testament really kind of talks about trying to follow the path so you can get back to the garden. And the New Testament showed us was a fulfillment of the Old Testament, showing us that path through someone who came to be us, to show us that it can happen. We can be loving and kind and considerate, but it's kind of upside down. And I'm gonna get to not this next one, but the next one after it is a really upside down story, and it's really. Let me do this one, then we'll get to the next one. All right?
Okie dokie.
So this next Eightfold Path is a correct effort. Cultivating positive states of mind and abandoning negative ones. And the scripture that I kind of found out with was this one from Galatians, speaking to a Christian now. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live it by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. As I read that scripture verse, what that says to me is that Jesus died on the cross for all of us, for every single one of us, the good guys, the bad guys, and the in-between guys. He died on the cross for everyone. So we just need to follow that message that he did. And let me tell you, the Beatitude that I picked for this is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Because pure in heart, would be the opposite of that might be a hypocrite, someone who's hypocritical and doing it for their own desires and ego and self. So, here's the catch, though. Here's the rub. We know where the mark is, right? We know where we're supposed to be, but none of us are going to make it. Can you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because it's purposefully imperfect.
Yeah, so no one's going to make that mark. The problem is people give up. People give up, and the.
Well, it's the Sisyphus story.
Right.
You got to imagine him happy.
Tell them the Sisyphus story, just in case they don't know it.
Sisyphus betrayed the gods and gave a gift to the humans after it was taken from them. I can't remember if it was the sun or if it was fire. It was one of those. But he was cursed to push a rock up a mountain, and then as soon as he got to the top, it would always fall back to the bottom, and he would have to roll it up again, and that was his task for the rest of eternity. But philosophers who think about that some came to the conclusion that you must imagine him happy, otherwise what's the point?
Right. Why would he go back and do it over and over and over again? He knew that there was an ultimate goal. And I think that's the mark. And that is really the story. The story is never forget that there's a goal out there. Don't be so negative if you can't make it. Do the best you can in the circumstances that you have.
Well, it's almost like the whole concept of fake it till you make it really is like genuine. Like if you give yourself ritual and do things consistently and keep your mindset consistently and are always reminding yourself of this path or whatever, you can almost trick yourself into being, maybe at first you're fooling yourself into doing this thing, but after a while it becomes part of your habit. So the fake it till you make it isn't like, don't throw that out completely. I think there's a usefulness to the because I always wonder, like, for me, going to church every Sunday seems like spinning a wheel, and that's fine if you need something to do. But for me, it's always just this. But I understand that, like, some people need to just spin the wheel once a week.
Well, we're faking it till we make it.
That's exactly it. No, and like if that's a level you need to be at until you get to the next level, until like that's perfectly fine to. I don't know, but you still have to be present and move to the. You can't just, do the motions. You have to trick your mind as well. If that makes sense.
I think it gets. I used to tell parents, mostly parents. So I was in a group of parents. I was in front of a group of parents talking to their kids about faith formation. I would say this statement. I said, if you want your kids to be good at soccer, go in the backyard and play soccer with them. If you want them to be good at cooking, bring them in the kitchen and teach them how to cook. If you want them to be good at praying, pray with them. I mean, that might be faking it until you make it, until they make it their own. But if we don't, what's the opposite of that?
Well, I think you'll be bad until you're good, but that's any skill you learn is
right. But see, the eightfold correct effort says positive states of mind and abandoning negative ones. So why do we, me and you, always like, I don't know, don't fake it till we make it. We kind of give up on it and say, pfft. Or why do so many people just give up on it and said, I'm not going to find it. So I'm not going to do it anymore. Cup's half empty.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not how we're supposed to be.
It's not wrong though. You know what I mean?
I don't like to play the wrong and right game, so I'm not going to say whether it's wrong or right. But
it's about,
is it the best thing for yourself?
No, it's about changing your attitude, which
right.
I guess the ultimate message of Jesus is that you can change the world because you're the creator of it. You get to commune with God again, and therefore, like, you can wipe all that ego stuff away and remember like what you truly are, and then none of that stuff will scare you because it's not important.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like, I guess that's like the simplest way I could say the ultimate.
But you have to put yourself in front of it. That's why I think it's important to go to church, even though you might be spinning. There might be that one moment where that spins off into something really good. Let me just say this about that. When I was doing my faith formation stuff and helping parents and kids and everyone, I would tell them, I'm basically a seed planter. I'm just planting these seeds in you of these stories of Jesus, these prayers, this way to live. And I have no idea if you'll ever follow it. I mean, I'm not going to follow you around for the rest of your life and say, "Oh, wow, look, they really did take off. They did good. They listened to what I said." I'm just a seed planter. But just in the last 2 weeks, 3 different people affirmed me. This one lady said to me last Sunday after church, she said, "You probably don't remember me, but when you taught the baptism class for me 24 years ago, we did this, and now we still." I'm like, wow. that's the going. You got to keep going because you never know who you're going to touch. That's why I can't agree with you. Not going to church is just staying away. And I think we need community.
No, I think you need community. But that's what I mean. Like, do you... Yeah, I guess I don't want to bash church. Like, do you need an artificially
no, call it what you think it is.
Do you need a ready-made community, or can you make one yourself?
Oh, I think there's.
Do you need a copy-paste like formula to follow? First we'll do this prayer, then we'll do this prayer, or can you just like have a thought on your own? And I'm on that. Now I'm ready to explore my own thoughts and do some gnosis.
But on your own, yes, but you have to engage in others so you can flesh that thought out and you can look at all sides of that thought. That's what school's about. That's what school should be about. You have a thought, let's flesh
right,
this
but you don't take the same
out.
You don't take the same class every year. Whereas if you go to church for 6 years in a row every day, you'll get a repeat.
Okay, but here's the difference, though. All right, so we're in our Christian tradition, if we're a liturgical church, which we are, every 3 years you'll hear the same reading again. It's on a 3-year cycle: cycle A, cycle B, cycle C. So here's the catch. So let's say you hear a reading when you're 17 years old. The next time you hear that reading, you'll be 20 years old.
Sure.
Totally different place in life. A 17-year-old is way different. Should be different than a 20-year-old. So you're going to come at it with a different framework. Then the next time you hear, you're 23 years old. So think about it. You're a teenager wondering what's next. You're about to finish college if that's the choice you made, or you're out in the middle of your career. 23, you might be thinking about getting married, or you are married. 27, 23, 26, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But my other thing is, like, how many stories are in the Bible that you'll never hear at church? Even if you go for the 3 years.
There might be a few.
Probably like 80% of the book?
No, you'll probably hear 80%. You'll probably miss 20%. Yeah, you'll probably hear about 80%. Gospels... You'll hear pretty much all the Gospels.
Sure you'll hear all the Gospels.
But the Old Testament maybe not all of it. Like you might not be taught how to build an ark, for instance. But in a Gospel you'll definitely get it, that's why it's important.
I guess what I'm saying is you should be looking for the truth and the themes at every church you go to, whether your church is the restaurant down the street that you're a regular at, or it's the church you go to,
with
or it's
a community.
Your office. No, that's what I'm saying. Where any community should be church because you're bringing the Christ to it.
As long as you do that, as long as you're not afraid to say, and the people there want to do that same thing. I mean, I happen to work in a church, so it was hard for me not to. But if I worked in the secular world, I wouldn't want to bring my church to them unless they were comfortable with me being that for them, and they want.
I'm not talking about preaching at them. I'm saying
even sharing,
be Christ-like.
Oh, definitely be Christ-like
in your
actions for sure.
Right, and
but I'm talking about it.
Well, talk about it. You're talking about being about it. Right effort.
Well, that's right. But you have to go put yourself out there to be right effort. That's what we're doing. I'm going to come clean here. When I was in the midst of my faith formation, I was very adamant about our church, and I'm really comfortable with our church. I can defend why I'm a Catholic Christian to the hilt. All right, but I've come to the realization that I don't care what church you go to nowadays. Just go to a church. Go to a church. Right? If it's phony, go find a different one. The problem is I think people quit. The church becomes phony for them, and they get rid of church and God at the same time because they don't go looking for God anymore.
I think they're trying to retrofit themselves into a program when they should fit the program to the people.
Well, that's why there's different churches out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, for sure.
And I think that's good. But if it's not feeding you, go find a different one. And I know that's hard. That's probably one of the hardest things for people to do is to, go walk into a church and say, "Here I am. Let's see how this works out," kind of thing. Unless you're shallow, I think a lot of people can go to some of these churches that are, I don't want to bash church either, but some of these churches that are a little less, a little less challenging, let's say.
That's fair.
Little shallow, if you will.
Well, that's kind of was my gripe with church. It was not challenging. It was.
I don't know if you go.
This is a thing.
All right. So you guys know
there's different. I mean, of course, there's different places, different.
You guys know that we're related, right?
Preaching.
So when we would go to church on Sunday, we would drive home. I would always ask you guys, so what'd you think of what the homily was, what the breaking open of the word was, and I was always say, yeah, I liked it, I didn't like it, I would have said this. So I always tried to challenge us on that ride home to kind of think about what we heard so that we can kind of make it our own, if you will. And some days it fell flat. There's no doubt about it.
I'm going to say it's not a core memory for me,
no?
Honestly. I'm sure it did happen occasionally, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, your mom and I were pretty adamant about that, because I'm kind of a church geek, so I want, when someone their homily, they just read the gospel and their homily is basically reading me the gospel again. It's like, yeah, no, tell me what you want me to do with that gospel. Don't read it to me again. I heard it the first time, so I was always into that, pushing that. All right, we got to go to the next one.
Yep.
Did I give you the... Yeah, I think I gave you the Beatitude for that one. All right, the next of the Eightfold Path is correct mindfulness, developing awareness of body, feelings, thoughts, and the phenomena. So, of course, I had to look up phenomena.
Is it phenomena?
Well, phenomena is a word that comes out of it. But
it's the word phenomena.
Okay, phenomena.
Phenomenon would be like a singular.
Right. Oh, yeah, yes.
Referring to
yes. So I looked it up and it said your shining self. You know what I mean? Like so basically what it's saying is thoughts. Correct mindfulness, developing awareness of body, feelings, thoughts, and your shining self. Right? Be who you are.
Be who you are, which is removing all the things that you actually think you are, and you're just the shining bright light of source.
Yes,
is what I read here.
Yes. So the gospel that I kind of took with it was the parable of the worker in the vineyard. You know the story? I'll kind of summarize it, but then I want to read the last kind of line. So basically, a guy owned a field and he needed workers, and he grabbed these workers and said, if you work for me, I'll give you so much money. Then a little later on in the day, he realized he needed more workers. He got some more workers. And then later on, he went out in the day, so he got some more workers. So each part of the day, like the morning, he got some workers, and they worked all day. And then he got some in the afternoon, and they worked the rest of the day. And then he got some later on in the afternoon, and they worked the rest of the day. And when it came time to pay them, they paid them all the same, right? They paid them all the same. And people were up in arms about this, like who does this? This story by Jesus, he kind of says at the end, don't, kind of the questioning Jesus, why would someone do that? That's ridiculous to, pay the guy who worked half a day the same as the guy who worked all day, and the guy who worked a little bit less of the day the same as the guy who worked all day. And Jesus says, don't I have a right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? And then he goes on, and the line that I really want to talk about is, so the last will be first, and the first will be last. Always put others in front of yourself. I think that's being your shining self. I think when you put others in front of you, that's being your shining self. You said earlier that when people come into the store, they don't say good morning. That's putting others before yourself. I want coffee. I need coffee. But you're a human being in front of me, so I'm going to say good morning.
Correct.
Right? Right?
Recognize the divinity in the other person.
Yes. That's your shining self.
that's literally what namaste means. Is there's divinity in you, and I'm recognizing
exactly.
it.
And I think we've lost that. We've lost that concept of doing that. The beatitude that I put with with that one is, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. People who are righteous, who recognize that it's not all about them. So I do it I personally do it in kind of little ways, and I hope how do you I'm going to tell you how I do it. You tell me how you do it, right? So if, this is the story that I have right now. We've been going to lots of doctor's appointments, my wife and I, because she needs to see the doctor. And every time he walks into the room, I stand up and greet him, right? Because, I respect him as a human being. I respect him as a doctor. I respect him as the person who's helping my wife. But first, I respect him as a human being. So I'm going to stand up when he walks into the room and shake his hand and greet him and thank him. And when I leave, I say thank you for what you're doing here and all that kind of stuff. And I say the same thing to the nurse and the lady who takes her blood pressure. That's kind of, I'm really paying attention to that. Waiters and waitresses, it's kind of like the lower,
Watch it.
I know. But you know what I'm saying, right? So how do you?
You mean the foundation?
Yes.
Is that what you mean
yes,
by lower?
I do. The nurses,
foundation
the
of society?
orderlies, the people who push the wheelchairs, the people who draw the coffee, the people who sweep the streets, the people who do all those things. I want to recognize them, and so I'm very conscious of them nowadays. I can't say that I was always conscious of them, but I am truly conscious of them. And when I'm with my grandkids, I want them to recognize that in me. And if they, get an ice cream cone and they don't say thank you to the person who scooped the ice cream and gave it to them, I'm giving them a look like, hey, and they'll go, oh yeah, thank you. You know what I mean? Planting seeds. So what do you do? What do you do to be your shining self?
I'd say I advocate
for
whoever needs it. A lot of people just take things on the nose, and sometimes you just have to look a little bit further to look into the eyes of the situation.
Can you remember a story where you advocated for someone that needed to be advocated for?
Well, just one that happens often is when people gossip or tell a story about someone and paint them in a negative light. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm very quick to say, I'm sure they're a human who is just doing something because they had something going. I'm ready to give people an excuse when I don't think there's maliciousness involved. And I think a lot of people assume maliciousness, and I just assume ignorance. People just not noticing that they're interacting with other people in the way they are.
Right. So I came up with this little tagline, because in this day and age, you can't disagree with someone without them jumping down your throat about whatever. So this is my little tagline that I kind of use when I get into a discussion that's not going anywhere, because they're not going to change, and I have my opinion.
I got one of those too.
I said, so here's my. You can tell us your tagline. My tagline is this: I just value things different than you value things, and I leave it at that.
So they say, but who's to say?
That's what you say?
Or crazy how nature do that.
Crazy how nature do that.
Because nature be crazy.
I would love you guys should develop a tagline. So we'll make this world a better place if you have some sort of tagline, And the one that I use is I think you should, because if nothing we get out of this, then maybe we should get a little bit of people thinking about how they can be the better selves. Let the last be first. Every once in a while, and I agree with you totally. Man, they're a backbone of everything. If we go to the store, the guy in the back room who's stocking shelves and taking stuff off of trucks, and it's not the manager walking around asking, "Hey, how's everything? Did you have a nice day?" It's not him. It's the one that's way down there. So I kind of appreciate you remembering that and saying that.
Yeah, and feel free to adjust the value system of the world accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anybody has any control over that.
Well, but it's like little planting seeds, man. If you don't do it, you're not going to do it. But if you do it, who's the guy who pushed the rock up the hill? Man, Sisyphus. He kept pushing that rock up a hill. It might feel like that sometimes, but it's a good thing. All right, last one.
Look at how strong he is. Buff.
He's got to be pretty strong, both physically and mentally. All right, correct concentration, practicing meditation to achieve mental focus and clarity. Following the path is essential for achieving enlightenment and to end the ending of suffering. The Beatitude I put with this: blessed are the poor in spirit. And the scripture that I could find about that was just that, and this happens lots of times in scripture. This is just one that I found from Luke 6, is that Jesus went off and prayed. We have to I recognize that Jesus is God. And if God has to go off and pray, that should be really something that we should listen to. We need to go off and pray. You mentioned the part about, churches, that spinning wheel, but I think we need that spinning wheel so we can interact with others and bounce ideas off them and find out am I the only one who thinks like this in the world, or do other people think like this? But I think we also need to go off and pray. That's enlightenment.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that's enlightenment, but
no, that's enlightenment. You are
path towards it.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say it's a guarantee.
Yes. Well, because it's a continuation. It's not a one and done kind of thing. So yes, it's a path.
Yeah, that's the thing about everybody kind of thinks enlightenment is the end of the ride. It's a state of being. That you have as in it's a verb happening,
and you have to maintain that.
And meditation isn't sitting and stilling your mind. That's the first part of it, but really what it is it's meditating, putting yourself in your center state. Meditate, center state, the middle way, the no extremes of good or bad, just righteous.
Right.
Not, right or wrong.
And maybe prayer gets a bad rap because, we have formal prayer, which is good because it's good. I think memorizing is good because, I'm not one to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Everyone says, oh, you don't have to memorize because memorizing is just, saying things, regurgitating things back. Yeah, it could be if you allow it to be, but it also could be a good thing. To have certain things that that you want to hold true and value. So that could be these formal prayers that we have. But there's also lots of different kinds.
Well, it's that fake until you make it. If you repeat it,
in your mind, helps.
Then it'll stay there.
Yeah, I remember one time my brother was in a really bad car accident, and we thought we were going to lose him, and all I could do was pray the Hail Mary. Man, I wanted to talk to God, God, please, take care of my brother and make sure he's okay and bless his wife who's worried about him too. And all I could do was say this one prayer because it was nice. And then when I reflected back on that after a couple of months, I was kind of thankful that I had that baseline.
Yeah, you didn't have to grasp at something. You just had this thing
right.
ready to fill this.
Right. So I think it's important. But back to your point about enlightenment, though, I like, we always used to say that the word Catholic is a verb, because you're supposed to be a Catholic, not just get Catholic, right? You're supposed to do something, take it out there in the world. And you say the same thing about enlightenment. You can't just be enlightened. You have to do something with that enlightenment. You have to be. Yeah, it's a verb. There's action attached to it, whether it's personal or helping others to achieve that. What's the Hindu religion? I think the Hindu religion has this concept called, I'm going to mess up the name of this, but it's like Bhagavisa. It's something who reaches nirvana and gives it to somebody else. They've reached nirvana and they say, "Oh, I want to give it to somebody else because they need it more than I do." I always thought that was pretty cool.
How could one?
Look it up. B-O-Ba.
Yeah, I imagine I get the concept of.
But I think that's the concept of what this enlightenment is. Don't just be enlightened on a mountain, not letting anybody see your enlightenment.
Well, yeah, you have to lighten.
Yeah. Yes. Hence the word, right? Hey, so listen, I did all the talking. What do your notes say? You have any questions for me?
Oh, they're the same notes as last time. I was just
okay.
So
that's me
hearing your correlations.
That's me connecting all of the Eightfold Path to the Beatitudes. I think they're so interconnected. I wrote this. I found this thing that I wanted to kind of summarize. So why don't you say?
What do you guys think? Do you think that the Eightfold Path and the Beatitudes correlate in any sort of way? Would you switch how they correlate in any sort of way? I don't know.
Did you think they correlate a little bit?
I think
was I successful in making my point?
I think the Bible verses on addition did a lot of lifting. But,
okay, cool.
But yeah, I don't think it's like unfounded or anything. I just don't think it's like quite direct or anything.
Yeah, anything
like that.
It's not apples to apples. It's but it's a little more mixed up than that. All right. So my thing that I want to kind of end with the Beatitudes is there are a set of teachings that emphasize the importance of righteousness, compassion, and the pursuit of the good life. I mean, listen to those words again: righteousness, compassion, the pursuit of good life. You hear all of those.
What's good life, Socrates?
Well, you hear all those. Well, good life is I think what you make it. I wouldn't say there's only one good life. I think there's lots of good lives. I think it gets back to that. You've heard this before, that like a poor person in a poor country who has what they have to survive feel rich because they know they have what they need to survive. They don't worry about what we have, right? Because they know they're rich. They might not be rich according to what the world says, but they certainly are rich in terms of how they understand how blessed they are. So I think that's the good life. It depends on where you're at. You don't think so?
Well, I don't know. My head went to how people like less options is more freedom in a way, kind of thing. Like, because we are more worldly, there's more world to be afraid of. And
that's us.
And in the same way, like, we're concerned about things that are going on in countries we'll never visit, whereas these people are probably more grounded in their community, just living and interacting with the people that they, so there's like the realm of anxiety is much smaller.
Yeah, we can have that. The problem is that I think one of the problems is that because there's so many of us, we have that spectrum of the haves, the haves and wants more, and then the have-nots. There's too many people over here, typical bell curve. You said something when you were 17 years old that I will never forget the rest of my life.
Probably.
And you said you got to take a mission trip to Nicaragua. And you went to Nicaragua, and you came back from Nicaragua, and you said, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to quote you exactly, but you said, "Why do we think we have to make Nicaraguans Americans? Why are we going there and bringing them peanut butter? That's not who they are,
Well, I think it was Pop-Tarts, but
yeah, you know what I
something
mean?
more specifically American.
So
But, yeah, that's this idea of that's what that is judging Christians, trying to pretend they're not being judgy.
yeah, because it's like, look what we have. You're going to love this.
Right, exactly. But
We don't need that.
I don't know. The more I learn about international charities and things of that nature, my instincts were probably correct.
Yeah,
Maybe not with that specific one, but like just the general concept.
There are some really good ones that go in and try to build within that community.
Yeah.
Like our diocese went to the Dominican Republic and they helped develop clean water for them through this like water system that you could build, and they brought it there and they helped these people build it themselves. Like with buckets and whatever they put in. I don't know how it worked out, but that was like not saying, "Oh, you need water. Here, we're going to ship in a bunch of bottled water." Here's a system where you can take your water and make it better, safer for yourself.
Sustainable.
Right. So that's the kind of stuff that I think, not to be cliche, but if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. So I think
I say that all the time.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. Just you go ahead and do it, and fail the first time. It's okay, but you gotta. If I just keep doing it for you, it's never gonna. Never helping anybody.
That's how I feel.
As a trainer, you shouldn't do anything at all that day except tell them what to do, And not in like a bossy way, but just they need to get their hands dirty. They need to feel the things happening and the timing of everything, like
show them the path.
Do it, yeah. Even if it's,
nice,
tricking yourself into thinking you're getting there. Eventually you'll be getting there.
All right. Well, that was pretty good. I like that. We went a lot of places with the Eightfold Path and the Beatitudes, and developing our moral standpoint and how to be better human beings. So we were talking about what will we do next, and we really haven't brought in the modern world yet. And I think we need to talk about what's going on in our world, especially us United Statesians. What's happening locally, nationally, and then maybe globally, so that we can kind of look at all those levels and say, how moral are we really being through the lens of the Eightfold Path, through the lens of the Beatitudes, through the lens of, all these other faith traditions that share with us a certain way to be. So is that where we want to go?
Sure.
We're going to try to do that. We can ruffle some feathers. We're probably not going to solve anybody's problems, but we're just going to kind of maybe connect issues to how we might want to be as a, I don't want to say, I'm going to say Christian. What would be a better word when we want to talk about all faiths?
Just moral?
Moral.
Just be a moral human citizen.
Human citizen.
Realizing we're all human citizens.
That's where we want to go.
Deserving of love.
So hopefully we'll get that out there, and you guys can let us know what you think. Pro or con, I'm sure there's things that you value that I don't value, and there's things that I value that you don't value. As a matter of fact, maybe our values are different. So I value things you might not want to value.
Yeah, but who's to say?
Right? That's what I was thinking. So until next time, I'm Dan. That's Charlie. And we appreciate you watching this, and pass it on to other friends if you have an opportunity to. Yes?
That's right. And make good choices. Feel free to leave a comment below
Please.
about some modern subjects that has moral issues that
All
you
my
think
friends
we
who-
need to
Yeah.
talk about.
All my
We'll get
friends
into
who
it.
text me when after they watch it, stop texting me and
Just
write your comments. There.
bump those numbers
Yep,
up.
I'll answer them, and then other people might have the same question. All right.
All right.
Thank you.